Hi everyone, welcome to Code Kamkaj YouTube channel. I hope everybody are doing good. In this video, we'll be discussing about DAGs, which means DAG skeleton for Airflow. What are the standards that we need to follow while creating the Airflow DAGs, and how we can write the DAGs in the best practices, and what all parameters that we need to pass while writing the DAGs, workflows. So stay tuned till this video. We'll be discussing about bunch of this information. And if you like this video, I request you to subscribe and share to your friends and family members. If you don't, I'll keep asking you to do that. So yeah, please do that. And now let's jumping into the concept. So I brought the Airflow DAG skeleton, which are mandatory while writing your workflows of Airflow. You need to follow it. So I brought the first one, which is the required inputs. So these are like libraries and modules that you need to use in Airflow to define your workflows. And if you are importing any other modules and libraries while you are working with a task, so you need to specify on top of it in your Python script. So that's about required imports. So I hope you already knew about how you can import any module or library while you're writing the Python script. It's not the that much complicated. So it's easier, how you're importing the way similarly you're writing the Python code. Simple way, not much. But while you importing, so you need to import few things related to DAX. We'll discuss that while we are jumping into the code. The next, we have the default arguments for the DAG. So default arguments are settings that applies on all tasks that on the DAGs, unless you have any specifically overridden related to do all the tasks. So these all include who is the owner and owner of the workflow, and whether task depends on any previous task to run. So we'd like to enable any email notification for failures or retries. So if you'd like to mention any number of retries and the delays between the retries. So these are arguments you are going to mention into the default argument itself of the tag. And the next we have the defining the tag. So here, as you know, but we have not defined the DAG full form, but directed acyclic graph. So is here in the defining the DAG, we are going to structure the workflow of entire Airflow, which is consist of task and the dependencies. So you can specify it. It can be the name and the description. So what is the schedule for running the workflow and the start date of your workflow, and whether backfill missed runs or not, so you can specify it. So on the other hand, I can say that this is a central framework for your entire organizing the task in the workflow of your Airflow. So next, specifying the task. So tasks are individual steps in workflows, right? So it works individually. So each task is represents some kind of actions, and you are going to run something, and it's going to make some actions. So example executing a script or running a query, or maybe it can be a sending an email. So you defining the task using the operators, it can be a Python operator, it can be a function, or it can be bash commands. Everything, whatever you would like to do, you are going to specify into the task itself. The next, we have the defining the operator. So operators acts like a template for the task in Airflow. So which is example of which is including the Python operator, which execute the Python function, or if it is a bash operator, it should run the shell commands. So just imagine it's a template for a task in our entire Airflow. At the end, we have the set task dependencies. So task dependencies like defining the order of execution of your workflow in Airflow. So we can enable the sequence in which task to run first and second, and maybe so on. So you can specify that one task must complete before starting another task. So this is where you can specifically mention first task has to be completed, and then it has to go for next task. So these kind of dependencies you can mention into the set task skeleton. So this is the skeleton of Airflow, and while you're writing the workflows of your DAX, you need to follow this, and then you need to write the Airflows tags, and you can enable it, while keeping into Airflows, / DAGs folder, and you can run it. We'll discuss in the next session, how we can run, our how we can take the snapshot, or how we can take the database dump or backup, whatever you call. So we'll see, we'll do a practical implementation with Airflow, and we'll discuss more about it. So yeah, but right now I'm going to jumping into the source code where I can show to you, how does it look like, what exactly it follow the skeleton and all. So I brought this simple source code where it follows the skeleton of the Airflow. So as I mentioned at the beginning, so here we have the required imports. So the imports are related to date, time, and time delta, and Airflow import DAG. So it's mandatory, and operators, if you are using any Python operator to run your Python code. So these all things that I have been importing basic libraries. So that's why I have mentioned on the top. And the next, I have the default arguments. So as I mentioned, so next one is default argument for DAGs. So here the default arguments are who is the owner, and whether it is depends on if you would like to wait for previous task to run, and you can specify it whether you would like to make any emails notification. You can specify it whether it is a true or failure, and email retries, so whether to send an email on retry, so you can specify it, and how many retries you would like to mention, in case of failure you can specify it. All the information you can mention into default args. And the next, as I mentioned, next one is defining the DAG. So here you are going to specify the unique identity identifier for your DAG. So it cannot be similar to other DAGs. So you need to mention the DAG name here, and what is the default argument. So you can specify it, and it will be passed into reference of the default arguments, and it will append over here, enter your workflows. And what is the description for this DAG, and what is the schedule interval. So basic information, and when it has to start, this is the start time, and how many times it has to run, we have already seen in the default arguments. So yeah, this is the DAG which applies on all the task into this workflow. The next, we have the task one, which is simple Python function where it is just printing hello Airflow. And the down we have the we are calling the Python operator with a uniquely ID for the task, which is a task one, and we are which is a task ID is a print hello world, and we are calling this respected function called as hello world. This is how you can call the respected function. It can be executed, and it will perform its task. And the second, we have the another example, related to the task itself. This is another task, which is task two. And here we have the say goodbye. And if my first task executed, it will come to the next task, and it will print the goodbye Airflow. And here we have the Python operator as a task two. So it is going to call the print goodbye as a unique task ID, and it is going to call the function of Python, which is say goodbye. And this is how you can call the operator for each task. At the end, we have the dependencies, the task one, if you want to execute the task two, so it is dependent on task one. So it has to go for sequential. First, it has to run the task one, and before task two. So before going to task two, it has to run the task one, then it has to go to task two. So this is how you can define the entire DAG workflows, and accordingly you can write a number of workflows in it, a number of tasks. It can be Python operator, it can be Bash operator, it can be Bash operator, it can anything. So this is the skeleton that you need to follow while you are interacting with the Airflow DAGs. I hope it is clear for everybody that whatever explanation I have given. And if you still have a confusion, I request you to drop your comments in comment section, and I'm happy to reply you back. So I'm stopping this video over here, and if you like this video, subscribe to my channel, share to your family and friends who are willing to upgrade and learn the new technology and upcoming and advance. Yeah, thank you. Thanks for watching. Bye bye.